In our workers' comp cases, we see accidents ranging from spinal injuries from falls on the job, car accident cases where you're working at the time of the accident, and even lost limbs. So we do also handle a wide range of cases when you're injured while you're at work. Whenever you're injured at work, it can be a result of anything, but when you're at work, clocked in on the job, and you're injured, during the course of your duties, your employer is responsible for paying for any medical expenses. Typically, when we do see these cases, we'll see maybe falls if you're putting up a book on a shelf and you fall over on a chair, or if you're a truck driver and you've been driving for an extended period of time and you start to have lumbar issues in your spine. So it really does range depending on what your trade is, but in any situation with some constraints, an employer is going to cover those expenses. The first thing that you have to do if you're injured at work is make sure that you let your supervisor know. Georgia Workers' Comp is very unique in the way that they process any claim. You do have to make sure that all of your medical treatment is done and approved through your employer. So the first thing that you have to do is make sure they have notice of when you were injured, and you have to do that immediately upon receiving the injury. Otherwise, they could deny the claim. Typically, when you're injured on the job, you'll receive a couple of different types of payments, depending on your level of impairment. If you are unable to work completely, you'll receive temporary total disability. If you are only able to work part-time, you'll receive total partial disability. And if you are able to continue working, you just receive your salary. So it's going to depend on how much you are able to work and how much you're not able to work. On workplace injuries, we actually have a specialized team who work on workers' comp all the time that we are able to utilize in terms of getting the claims set up, getting the cases moving, and making sure that any settlement that you receive is done in an appropriate manner and in the appropriate time. The Hawk Firm is a boutique firm. That's probably the best way to describe it, where we can actually handle your case and handle it personally, as opposed to a more large firm where you may not even see your attorney, shake their hand, know what their name is. We definitely work on a more family scale level. I think the biggest advantage is having access to your attorneys, to the staff, and also being in a location in a historic district like we are here in Augusta, where you can just walk in. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, you can walk in, knock on the door, and we'll be here to greet you. I think one of my favorite things about the Hawk Firm is that there's one guarantee that we can tell every personal injury client that walks through the door, and that's that we will never take more in attorney's fees than they walk away with at the end of the day. I know a lot of firms, we work all under a contingency fee basis, which means that you don't owe us anything if the case doesn't work out. You don't have to pay us anything when you walk through the door. But at the end of the day, when you take home your check, you know that you received the brunt of what that money was because you deserved it for actually being the person in the accident. During your initial consultation when you're injured on the job, the first thing that we're going to do is ask about the specific circumstances of what happened. Workers' comp is very fact specific in terms of whether or not your employer will cover it, so we have to make sure that every detail, even if you don't think it's important, we spend the time making sure that we go through every facet of your injury so that you're compensated appropriately.